Check, 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 check. We have some audio here. Audio. Yep. Hold on. That looks good. Hello, Ed. Good to see you, or be seen by you. John, good afternoon, sir. Martin. Yes, Martin. It is how I use it, not how it's created, because I don't have a clue how you created it. But once you created it, I put my own little special touch on it. Actually, Martin K, DV2 Broadcast, is the one that created the Streaming Idiots intro and outro. And golly, how long ago was that? Let me look on here. It's been a while. Bless his heart. He didn't know what he was in for. It was a long, let's see, show videos. And let's put these in some sort of order, like date, order, youngest, oldest to youngest. So that would have been show opening. Nope, that was a different, although Martin did help me with show opening for that Vid Blaster guy. That was different. And let's see. Look, I'm just looking through the files here to find the very first time, 2016. How about that? 2016. So that's been 6 years, Martin. Holy cow. You should send me some images sometime that show what it's looked like in the design stage, because it is unique. Mo Beta. That's right, Michael. Can't get enough of beta. Holy cow. Got some beta. You know, I said last week that version 25.0.0.20, henceforth known as 2.0, was the last. I was convinced that was the last beta in the 25 series. But lo and behold, the next day, I think they put out 21, and then yesterday they put out 22. So the latest, greatest is 25.0.0.22. We'll be talking about that on the show when we get a chance. You know what I found out? I didn't realize it because I wasn't paying attention, but right there you can see the, well, now it's down there, the post that I made earlier on Facebook, and I included a graphic that I'd stolen off the internet. And sure enough, vMix picks up the graphic that's in the comment. So there you go. Ed says, better start on your spinoff show intro now. Yeah, that's right. I don't know where to go from here. So, yeah. Stomping bugs. Well, you know, yeah, we'll get into this in just a minute. But vMix has said that 22 is the release candidate. So that's how they call it. That's how the big boys call it. It's a beta until it's the last beta, and then it's called a release candidate. That is, nobody else find any other bugs. Uh-oh. I forgot to turn this thing down, but somebody has texted me and reminded me to do that. Yes. 1 second. So let's turn this down. And we haven't missed anything important. Yeah. Let's turn it all the way down. There we go. Nothing that won't keep, as they say. Nothing that won't keep. So, Martin, I think today might be a knee down day. Feeling pretty good. For those of you that are keeping up with my personal trials and tribulations, I don't know why you would, but I had knee replacement surgery on January 17th, which today is Wednesday, so this past Monday would have been, was that 6 weeks or 5 weeks? You know, I've lost count. I think it's 6. And saw the orthopedist yesterday. He said, "He looks like you're doing great." So he said, "I'll see you in another 6 weeks. And then after that, 6 months. And then after that, a year." So I was like, okay, cool. I didn't ask him any questions I didn't want the answer to, like, can I fly? Can I drive? I've been driving and I'm planning on flying soon. One of my clients needs me to go to Kansas and help them do some training with vMix Instant Replay in a football stadium there. So we're going to go up there and do a day of training and come back. So that'll be our test. That'll be our beta flight. We'll see how it goes. But the knee's coming along well. Got 116 degrees of flexion, that is closing, and I think about 5 degrees of extension. The goal is 0 degrees of extension, and you know, they're kind of loosey-goosey on what the goal is on flexion. You know, maybe 120, 125. But I didn't have 0 extension and 125 flexion beforehand. So anything I get from this point forward, I think I'm almost exactly where I was before the surgery now. And so anything from here is going to be just golden, just gravy, as they say. And I want gravy. I want to be better than I was before. So here is my goals. Yeah, today is March 2nd. In a month and a half will be NAB, and my goal is to be walking all through NAB every day without a cane. I may have to cheat and pull out a cane, but that's okay. So there we go. Gunner, he made it. I'm glad you did. We're going to have two very exciting topics today. Ed, show us how it's done. Well, you want to see how the knee is done, or how the graphic video is done, the intro? Let's see. Here's a quick. That's not really the intro, but it is how the jaws open up, and we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited about NAB. It's going to be a smaller show. Las Vegas has convention center people have taken advantage of this low attendance time to do some remodeling at the convention center. So the South Hall, where vMix normally sets up, will not be available. It's being upgraded, remodeled, whatever. So I think vMix is in the North Hall. It's either North or Central. Those are the only two halls that are being used. Yes, I am going to get to my goal, Ed. That's what I'm doing. I'm going for the goal. The goal. Goal. The goal. Of course, that's the goal too. So there we go. So yeah. Yep. Healthy, happy, and feeling terrific. And I would say to all of you that are gentlemen or male, you may not be a gentleman, but if you are 40 or above and you haven't seen your cardiologist, I think it's a good idea. Because actually it's probably a good idea for anybody at some point to have a kind of a heart exam done. Because if you have a heart attack before you're 40, you'll probably die of it. If you have a heart attack after you're 40, in your 40s or 50s, you probably won't die of it, because the heart, at about age 40, I understand this from cardiologists, about age 40, your heart begins to develop alternative pathways to provide blood to the heart muscle. And what causes a heart attack typically is that one of those arteries that provides blood to the heart muscle gets blocked. And that's why they'll do a bypass around the blockage. Used to be. Nowadays, they just stick a ramrod through it. And that's what happened to me. Had a heart attack, let's see, 12 years ago? 12 years ago next week. How about that? No. Yes, 12 years ago next week. And they had to put in some stents, which, if you remember the old ballpoint pens, you open them up and the little spring springs out. Well, a stent looks like a ballpoint pen spring, except it's much smaller and probably made of something different. And they work it through your circulatory system to make it to the point where you've got the clog in your heart, and they open the clog and they put this spring in, and then they let the clog go and the spring holds it open. And I've got 5 of those suckers in 3 different visits. So I'm a big proponent of staying healthy, eating healthy. My bloodlines, I just have bad cholesterol, which I've given to my children, and my brothers have as well. But everybody else is healthy except me, but I'm the oldest of the clan. So if you haven't, see your cardiologist, see your general practitioner, your GP doctor, your general doctor, and get them just to take a look at your heart. Yeah, that's a good goal. Jan says, I'm sure you'll be jiving all night long during the NAB after show party. I don't know about the all night long part or the jiving part, or the after show part. But I'll be rocking during daylight hours for sure. Sandy's going with me. So if you're going, I'd love for you to meet her. She is the light of my life and the one that has kept me alive through this ordeal. It hadn't been that bad, but I would have starved to death. Although, you can tell I did lose a little weight, which I could have used anyway, so I was happy to. All right, well, let's get this show on the road. We're going to hit the infamous pink button. So hold on to something firm while we get the show started. Ta-da! All right, it worked again. Hat tip to Martin Kay, who created that wonderful, what would be a good word for it? I'll come up with a good word for it. It is a unique intro. So only from the mind of Martin Kay could that have come. But thank you. Actually, Martin created different parts of it for different things in the past and threw them all together for this. Maybe I'll come on the show sometime and talk about it. Hello, Kyle. Glad you're here. Welcome. So a couple things on the agenda for today. One is want to talk about vMix, one of my all-time favorite pieces of software. I mean, just in all the software that I've ever used, it's in the top 5. Probably higher than the top 5. But, when you think about all the software you've used over your life, I mean, I remember back in the day, WordPerfect was just, I loved it. It was great. I taught people how to use it. I was selling PCs at the time. Funny how that comes back around, isn't it? And teaching people how to use WordPerfect. And I was excited about it because it did things that the other options, I think WordStar was back then. So I liked WordPerfect. Okay, but vMix is one of my all-time faves, so we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we're also going to talk about the intro that you just saw, the magic purple button on my X keys. It should say intro, but it says Fade to Black Part 1. I've never made a new label for it. This is an X keys 80, by the way. XK80, but it's probably not set up the way you would set it up. It's set up with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and gets changed every week or so. So the labels don't always keep up with what it is, but it's nice to have something that's so flexible. Anyway, the idea was Martin Kay felt so sorry for me because I think I had a screenshot of something, and I sort of popped that up there as my intro with a little music behind it. Hello, Otis. Welcome. Glad you're here. Ed used DOS Easy Writer. There you go. You're dating yourself. And so Martin felt sorry for me. He said, you need an intro and an outro. So he sent me one, and I struggled with it for a while to figure out what it was. And I'm going to play it for you. This is speeded up 4 times, but I just want to show you. This is the raw. Let me get to the show tab here. This is the raw video. So let me cue it up. Let me restart it. And I don't think it has any audio associated with it at this point. So yeah, that's the raw video. Take the lower third off, and then it goes to green for what is that? 10 seconds or something like that. And so the key was the idea was that when the jaws of death opened up. Let me see if I can go back here and get it to not play when we tell it to go. 1 second. So we'll say don't play with transition. So we can bring it in right there. Yeah, as you can see, the jaws are beginning to open up. And where the green is, that's where I am. that's where I am. So the idea was that this would open up to me. I mean, I am such an idiot. It took me, I didn't understand. This was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe longer. Maybe I still don't. But at that point, I didn't really understand the concept of chroma key and what blocked what and how it did and where. And if I wanted to be behind it, what would I have to do? And I'm sure there are better ways to do what I did. But what I did was I took that video and I took this shot and I put both of those as a layer, what used to be called a multi-view. Yeah, here we go. In just a blank. It's just a blank of just a black page. And you can see up at the top, number 1 is main shot. That's me. And number 3 is the opening video. You can see it's dated 2019 because we haven't updated it since then. And there wasn't a burning need to update it since 2019, unlike the outro, which is dated with a copyright. And so those two play or are active in a blank input. Now the blank input has, well, let's do the chroma key first. So this is how the chroma key got set up you can see right at the very top where it says input 20 SI 2019 opening.mp4. I went in and used the eyedropper tool to pull out the exact green that was in the video, and then all I had to do was turn on the chroma key filter because it was such a good match. It immediately turned that green part black. And so when it did, it meant now that whatever it was opening up on would have to have already been behind it. Well, the way to make it already be behind it, of course, was to make the main shot number 1 in our multi-view, in our layers, and that the opening would be further down because by the higher the number, the closer to the front it is. So, for example, this lower third right here is a higher number in the multi-view. That, let's see, can I get in behind it? Yeah, that graphic right there is a higher number than this image right here. And then, of course, the background right there is a lower number than my camera. So we've stacked from back to front. So in this shot, the black is actually the back, which is the input itself. And then the next layer would be the main shot, and then the next layer would be the opening video. And then, of course, the opening video would be chroma key. So once I got that figured out, and that took me days, weeks, months. And there've been times when I've had to go into a new situation in order to do the show, and I didn't bring my presets with me, and I had to recreate it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I do this? I did this years ago, and I know there's got to be a way to do it. But what initiates all of that is a couple of what do you call them? Shortcuts. Yeah, so let's bring those shortcuts in. And those shortcuts, as you can see in the red area, is MIDI note on 214. And there are 2 of them. One that says you're going to fade to the input called 19 virtual opening. And we'll go take a look at that in just a second. And you're going to start recording. And that would be the first purple button. And then the second purple button, of course, you can see down below it is number 22, which is to fade to the virtual close. Why I've got that down there twice, I don't know. Who knows with me? Holy cow. So the shortcuts are not many. It's a fade to the virtual opening, which is the black background with me and then the video in front of it. And that is set to start playing automatically. And then at the same time also to start the recording in case I want to just, for whatever reason, have a recording of just the show that doesn't include the pre-show and the post-show. And then there's one last piece to it that kind of, I think, just kind of helps polish it and make it just a little bit better. And that is some triggers that are on the virtual opening, the black page with me and the video on it. And the triggers say, on transition in, restart the closing from the last time we used it. So there we go. So we make sure that when we get to the end of the show, that the closing is restarted and ready to go. And also on transition in, to lay in an overlay on channel 1, which is input number 23, and that happens after 22,000 milliseconds. You say 22,000 milliseconds. Why 22,000 milliseconds? Well, number one, that's 22 seconds, so it's not that long. But keeping in mind that this is a blank input that has my camera image and then the Jaws of Death video playing in front of it, and the time from the start of the Jaws of Death video till the jaws open up and reveal me, and then we pause for a second, and then the lower third comes in, that's 22 seconds. And it took me a while to play around with it and get it to be the way I wanted to it. And the transition, as it transitions in, then it begins to count. I think it counts to 10 or something like that, and it transitions out. So it's not complex, but it's a tad complicated. We're using a couple of different tools. We're using the chroma key. We're using layers. We're using triggers, and we're using shortcuts all together to make that work. And so we're doing lots of little things, and it all starts with the push of one button on my X keys, which is the one that says FTB Part 1. Because I used to have to do that. At one point, I was doing this with like 5 buttons, and I finally realized, hey, this is vMix. I can make it do it all itself. And I did, but I never changed the label. So that's the whole idea behind this whole thing. It's been a lot of fun to put together, and thankful to my buddy Martin K for making it all work, and kind of giving me the what's the right word? The inspiration. Yeah, the inspiration. And I think it's a cool little video. So hat tip to Martin K. So with that, I want to talk just a tad about vMix 25.0.0.22, hereafter known on this show as .22, just for the sake of expediency. So .22 was released yesterday. Last week's show, we were running .20, and I said, this will be the last beta vMix has. And they released a new beta the next day, as if to say, that's what we think of you, Sinclair. Keep your mouth shut. You don't know what's going on. Not only did I not know what was going on, but there've been 2 betas since I said that would be the last beta, 21 and 22. 22 was released with the nomenclature Release Candidate, RC. Now, that means that vMix has turned up the heat, and they've gone from 25.0.0.1 to 25.0.0.21 as betas. Most of those internal betas, and then the public betas came out. I don't remember which one was the first public beta. Was it like 14 or something like that? And now we're up to .22. The nice thing about the way they've done this is that now that they're calling this a release candidate, it kind of ups the pressure on anybody like me or you that's using vMix, that may have said, yeah, something didn't work right, but I don't have time to play around with it right now. Well, now is the time to go play around with it and make sure that wasn't a bug, because they're going to release this sucker out to the wild. And if you're watching this show, you are more than just a casual observer. You may not use vMix professionally for your bread and butter. It may not be what you use to make a living, but you are more than just a casual observer by watching this show. And so if you have encountered something that is out of the ordinary, if you can make that repeat and it's not what you think it should do, then I think you are obligated. You've got community obligation to tell vMix that there may be a bug in whatever part of the system is that you're using. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not going to be bugs out there, or that there are going to be tweaks where vMix says, this was 80% of what it could have been. Let's go ahead and get the other 20% out there. The previous version of vMix, let's see if we can pull it up here. The official current version of vMix is 24.0.0. Are you ready for this? 72. And we're at 25.0.0.22. That's .50. That's 50 incremental differences from where we are now to where we would have been if this was the last one now in the future. Yeah, I didn't understand that either, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So that tells me that if we're at a release candidate at 22, we've got some goodies, I think, some little goodies to look forward to, some tweaks. And you say, okay, Tom, there really wasn't anything in 25, that I've seen so far that I thought was worth making the upgrade, either because it's going to cost me $60, or because I just don't want to have everything change on my desktop and have things move in different places. Well, part of that is vMix definitely respects the legacy aspect of being a long-term customer. I think that's one of the reasons why the vMix interface is as clunky as it is that they have resisted changing the interface because they want their users to not feel. Do you remember when Windows went from Windows 7 to Windows 8 and did that tile nonsense? Oh my gosh, that was like Coke and New Coke. It was a change that didn't need to be made. Okay, now the vMix interface is not the prettiest thing in the world, but if you've been using it for a while, you know where everything is. Why have to relearn something that you already know and already works for you? Could it be easier? Yeah, maybe incrementally, maybe just, a tad. Would it be easier to learn if you're just starting out? Yeah, but it's a steep learning curve anyway, I think, because there's so much there. The challenge that I have when I teach vMix is to teach people who are just starting out, at least most of them. They don't know nothing yet. And so we got to start somewhere. And so we're starting with the very basics, how the vMix layout is organized into quadrants. And you've got this in that quadrant and that quadrant. And, the kinds of things that you would expect that, down there is going to be add input. You'll use that a lot. Up there is going to be settings, and you're going to use that a lot. So they're diametrically opposed. And trying to find ways to simplify the teaching of it so that people kind of get the hang of it sooner than they might otherwise if they had to sit down with tutorials or with the or with the help manual. But I respect vMix for taking one for the team. They are taking a blow to the jaw by not updating their interface. And I think they're doing it for you and for me so that we don't have to relearn everything. vMix has not substantially changed its layout ever. They've added buttons, They've added things. It's become a little bit more cluttered, but they haven't made substantial changes. We still have preview and program output, which they call output. We would call program. And the inputs are still there. Yeah. So, hats off to vMix for going the road less traveled, and for not trying to be the popular kid on the block with the latest, greatest, fanciest. They want to make sure it works and works well, and you can count on it, and you know where it is when you need it. If you're a professional, you appreciate that. You do. You do. So 25 is going to look like 24. There's nothing different that you're going to see, I think, when you upgrade, except maybe, where's my desktop here? Let's put my desktop there. And you can see we got all these extra categories here. That's something you'll notice. We got a bunch of categories, and you can change the colors and do what you want to with them. And yeah, but other than that, I don't think there are any other changes that appear to me right off the bat. A lot of this stuff in here may not look like yours, but that's because I've just customized vMix to make it look the way I want. I added the clock here, for example, and I think I took out quick play or something else like that because I don't use it. Oh yeah, you'll get a save as button up here. Boy, that's a real shocker. But I'm convinced that what I see is not as important as what I don't see. And what vMix will frequently say when they produce an update, when they go from .21 to .22, they don't always say it, but a lot of times they do. And they'll just say miscellaneous improvements. And I know that vMix today runs as well on a less powerful, like an i3 or something like that, as it used to 6 years ago on a i7. I'm running vMix today 1080p 30 at my church and streaming to 2 destinations using a 9050 Ti, 8 gigs of RAM, and a second generation i7. It was a system that I used to use here, and I gave to the church because it still works. And oh yeah, and the CPU is like 20%. Now, I'm not asking a lot from it, but it's doing everything I need. Holy cow. So I think the incremental improvements in vMix, the tweaks under the hood. I don't know if you watch a lot of car shows. I'm a big fan of car shows. Not necessarily make them go fast, but fix them kind of shows. But I always like it when somebody can make an improvement under the hood. Soup it up, but just a little bit. Just a little bit. And I feel like vMix gets souped up a lot, but a little bit at a time. And I think that, if for no other reason, that's the reason why you need to upgrade to vMix 25 when they release the official version of vMix 25, which probably I think it'll definitely be before NAB. And it could be this month. I don't think they'd do it on April 1st. Would they? I don't know, but keep your eye out for them on April 1st, because you remember that year on April 1st, they what was it? They introduced vMix Voice. That's what it was. Hello, Tim. Glad you're here. Hey, Rich. If you can't be here on time, just show up whenever you can. They released vMix Voice, and I think everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke, which it kind of was. And but it really exists in vMix. I mean, you can create voice shortcuts that when you say voice shortcut number 1, it'll do something. Whoops, it'll ring a chime. But I used that for a show one time, and I was changing to all sorts of different things. So I didn't obviously didn't know how to use it, but it was a lot of fun anyway. Finally had to turn it off because I was such a disaster with it. But that's the kind of thing that I think we can look for April 1st. But a release candidate, I think, means that vMix 25 is as the official release is not far away. You know what? We may do a special. When vMix 25 is officially released, we'll do a 10% off on your upgrade, and we'll give away 5 upgrades on the show after the official release is announced. So don't let me forget on that one. We'll give away 5. And if you don't get one of the 5, you get 10% off your upgrade. So you save $6. But why not save $6? I mean, $6 is $6. Holy cow. So there you go. So that's all I got, folks. That's all I got. I'm healing up nicely. I'm overrun with PCs that are in the process of being building, partially because we got a pretty sizable order in from one person, from one company, and also partially because I'm just behind. So if I've promised you a quote, or if I promised you anything and you haven't seen it, please shoot me an email and remind me, because I'm going through my list of emails and phone calls while I was out, and it's an enormous list. And so if you send me something today, it puts you at the top of the list. Who was it? Oh, it was Toby. Toby's been trying to get a hold of me for weeks, bless his heart. And finally, he emailed me. He emailed me this morning. That's what it was. Or maybe he sent me a text. I don't remember. And said, this is the situation. I've called and written you and emailed you and texted you and, practically thrown notes onto your front lawn. But help. And so I was able to get back a hold of him and get him helped out. Apparently they had a router or a modem go out in their church, and so they replaced it. Maybe they upgraded to a different service. I don't know. But when they did, it changed the local area network, all the IP addresses, and the PTZ Optics PC had been set up. The PTZ Optics camera had been set up with one particular IP address for control and to receive the video, and so that wasn't working. And then they were just like, what can we do? So I said, if you're by there, turn it on, leave it on. I'll have it fixed in just a few minutes, and send them a text after a few minutes saying, okay, it works now. So there you go. There you go. So Rich is asking, so Martin and folks are going to do the full release of version 25 during NAB? My suspicion is, Rich, that they are going to release it before NAB. Because if it's ready, there's no reason not to. And it's not like there's any big bang of releasing it at NAB. May as well give your loyal followers the ability to, you can use it now. It's a release candidate, so that means it's probably, 99.9% baked. But if you want to see version 25 and you don't want to download it and install it yourself, and you're at NAB, yes, cruise by the vMix booth, and I'm sure you can see it there. Yes. In fact, I give you 100% certainty you can see it there. All right. Well, enough of this. Let's roll into post-show, and if you've got questions, I'll take those. And I'll see you. Oh, watch the outro now. Let me go back to this shot right here. Right, and there's the lower thirds. And watch how this works as we go out. I think these lower thirds and this graphic right here go away pretty quickly. They've already gone away. So I'm going to punch the purplish pink button, and let's see what happens. There it goes. So there we go. All right. Yes, indeed. So yeah, Rich. Oh, and news here about the studio. I found out this morning that I'm getting a new neighbor over here. For the last year, the suite next door to me has been vacant because it has been rented by some used car dealers who needed a physical address. Not that they had used cars out front, pre-owned cars, but that they just needed a physical address. And so the unit was empty except for a desk and a chair for a year. Well, those guys finally moved out. And this morning as I came in, I was greeted with this tapping coming from next door. I'm thinking, uh-oh, that's not good. We have a show today. We don't need tapping in the background. And the tapping will be starting up here in about 10 or 15 minutes. So I went next door and introduced myself to the worker there. And he said, yeah, they're bringing in a dance studio. And they've got to take out all the tile and put in hardwood floors for the kids to dance on. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we've gone from tap to music. So we'll have to see what the music is like. But he agreed very nicely to take a break during the showtime. So between 3 o'clock Eastern and 3:30 Eastern, he's taking a break. In fact, he's going to break until 3:45. So we'll have quiet until then. But he's got a chisel and a big old hammer, and he's pounding on the floor, breaking up all this tile. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Apparently, there are going to be some. It's going to be a dance studio, so it'll be primarily girls, and I guess they'll have an after-school program. So hopefully, school won't let out until until post-show, and then we'll get music wafting in through the ceiling and the other places. So we'll just have to wait and see how that's going to be. All right, so Xavier says, any thoughts on AMD versus Intel for high-end CPUs? Xavier, I'm not a good one to ask. I have never built an AMD machine in my life. I upgraded one 9 years ago, upgraded the CPU from a 1.5 to a 1.9 gigahertz processor on a dual core, but that doesn't really count. So I'm just an Intel fan. I understand what's going on with the Intel line. I like being able to know all that. I haven't desired to go out for it. It's got all the power I need. I built a couple of 18 core machines, and they burn through anything that we can put on them. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all works out. So meanwhile, Jan has said that he's trying to shove his i9 system with an eATX, that's the extended ATX motherboard, into the newish Fractal Torrent compact cabinet. Not too much room to spare with a 1200 watt power supply. Well, I guess not. And why are you trying to shove it into a compact cabinet? I mean, for example, wouldn't you want to have as much airflow through that case as possible? I'd put that into a giant cabinet. Holy cow. Xavier says he's got mass-loaded vinyl. Oh, get mass-loaded vinyl for sound stopping. Oh, that's an idea. That's an idea. But why should I have to pay? Because they're infringing on my rights, my audio rights, my sound rights, my silence, my right to silence. Yeah. All right, so he is finishing up his 18-core. Ah, there we go. In a Pelican case. Oh, love to see a picture. If you get a chance, post one in the Streaming Idiots group. And I think Ed likes that idea. Yeah, I the landlord, they're only 5 office units, and everything else is a storage unit. And the we have a new landlord, and they own other storage buildings, but those other storage buildings don't have traditional office tenants. And they've already tried to get me to sign a lease where I would agree to carry $1 million worth of liability insurance. I guess so somebody wouldn't sue them if they slipped and fell in my unit. Don't know, but we're still negotiating on that. That's a lot. That's a lot. The Torrent cabinet's got massively good reviews for air cooling. Yeah, but do they know how you were going to use it? Yeah, we'll see. We will see. But I'm the good guy. I want to go make friends with my neighbor, and if there's something I can do to help them out, I'll help them out. And then maybe they won't schedule class Wednesday afternoons between 3 and 3:30 Eastern time. We'll see. What was it? Somebody said oh no, it was on TV. I don't remember where I saw it. Somebody said, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And somebody else says, well, you know what attracts more flies than honey or vinegar. So, but that doesn't help. Yeah. Now, Kyle is thinking, trade streaming services for an hour and a half a week of silence. That is a remarkably good idea, Kyle. That is a remarkably good idea. And I have a green screen studio here, which in a pinch could be temporarily portable next door. Wouldn't even have to be. I could just put cameras in there. I love that. Kyle, you're the man. John has 280 millimeter fans in the front. Okay. Okay. Xavier did a lot of 3D printing. There you go. That's the ticket. Customize it. Airflow. Airflow. It's all about airflow. Somebody was fussing at me. Tom, why are you, when you build a rack mount PC, why are you using a 4U case? Why don't you use a 3U? Well, 3U is only that much smaller. But I just like the idea because I know what's going to happen to my 4U systems. They're going to get stuffed into a rack with something else on the top and something else on the bottom, and a heated surface underneath and a heated surface above it. And I want it to have as much air flow and as much air exchange and much room for the air to move as possible. And if you don't want it in a 4U, you want it in a 3U or a 2U, we'll give it somebody else a shot at that deal. But you're going to get a 3-year warranty from me, parts and labor and unlimited technical support. Anyway, that reminds me, if you're interested in the vMix 101 class, we're about to pull out some dates on that. I think it's going to be starting later this month, and we'll probably skip a week for NAB, but yeah, I'll make sure that that's posted widely, broadly. Yep. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to turn off the ticker here because I need to get up and move around a little bit. Knee's doing great. If you joined late and you were wondering about the knee is doing great. I've got 118 degrees of flexion and 116 degrees of flexion, 108 degrees of extension, which is about where I was before I had the knee done. So anything else from this point is gravy. I'm cutting back on my meds, so I'm not a Fruit Loop as much of the time. And what else? And I'll see you at NAB. Yeah. Or you can see me at NAB because I'm sure we'll be doing some live streaming there. So, let me fade gracefully into the woodwork, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.